Morning date. Welcome to another edition of Morning Date, where we get to meet people who love what they do and share that love and passion with us on this show. Joining us today is film critic, columnist, and academic Jason Bechervaise, and we can't wait to get his insight into Korean cinema. For fans of Morning Special, he's already a familiar voice. So Jason, hello and welcome. Thank you for joining us on the show.
Hello, Sue. It's an absolute pleasure to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
It's wonderful to have you back.
Thank you. Yeah, it's always great to come here.
Yeah.
It's just amazing to see how quickly the buildings go up around here. It just looks completely different. Because I used to live here in Ilsan a few years ago. And yeah.
Have you since moved?
Yeah, I still live in Goyangsi, but a different part of it, which is also being redeveloped.
Yeah.
As people are kind of moving out of the capital, but certainly within a few minutes on the subway. And so yeah, I still live in Goyang, but I used to come here quite regularly when I lived around here, and yeah, it's just completely transformed. I was telling my son, I was like, wow, this is incredible. All these apartments going up.
Could you say a quick hello to our listeners? And for those who are not familiar, give us a brief intro of who you are.
Sure. Hello there. My name is Jason Bechervaise. I'm originally from the United Kingdom, as you can probably tell from my accent. I've been in Korea since 2010. And I did my Ph.D. here at Hanyang University, and I wrote about the filmmaker who you might know called Bong Joon-ho, and
I think we've heard of him a few times.
Yeah. So he's made me very busy, and I've been talking a lot about Parasite and the success of the film in the Korean media, and also the international media as well. And I've been working here as a professor, and also I'm a professor at Sungcho Cyber University, and I also work as a film critic, and I write for various places, including Screen International, which is a trade publication based in London, and I've written about Korean films for many years now, and it's just an absolute honor and privilege to be in Korea as everyone's talking about Korean cinema, and more specifically Parasite and Bong Joon-ho. So I mean, I'm basically in the right place at the right time.
Absolutely. 2010년부터 한국에서 살고 계시는데요. 물론 영국과 한국을 오고 가고 계십니다만 한국에서 영화학 박사학위를 취득하셨고 마침 박사학위 논문의 주제가 봉준호 감독이었습니다. 그래서 지금 이보다 더 시적절할 수가 없어요. The most opportune time and place for you.
It's been fortuitous timing, and people say to me, "Jason, you called it," and people give me a lot of encouragement, and just quite impressed that I wrote about Bong Joon-ho before this happened.
Absolutely.
But Bong Joon-ho, of course, has been a hugely influential filmmaker for so long, and he's been in the industry for 2 decades now, and so I mean, it's not like he's been hiding away making movies for 20 years. He's been a big voice, a big figure in the Korean film industry for 20 years now, and I just happened to write a dissertation about him, and it's surprisingly, this is a surprising thing, no one had written a thesis on Bong Joon-ho.
Really? In 2010? When was this?
2016,
2016.
I was
His first movie came out in 2000.
Yeah,
so.
it's surprising,
Wow.
both in Korean and English as far as I'm aware, and so I was amazed, and it was a great opportunity, and it just all blew up in a big way when he won the Palme d'Or with Parasite. Which actually, this movie, the Parasite, a lot of it was shot right near my home in Goyang, because they have the Aqua Studios, which are located in Goyangshi.
Mm.
And I can literally walk to this studio from my house. And I used to go on my runs when they were shooting.
And did you? Oh, really?
And I didn't want to disturb Bong Joon-ho, so I didn't gate crash the party or filming. But yeah, they shot a big part of the film where the sub basement, all of the scenes filmed in that sub basement and around it. So Ki-taek's home, played by Song Kang-ho, they were filmed in my neighborhood.
Really?
So
I heard it was inside some sort of pool or something.
that's right. It's a big kind of water tank, but it's a studio. So they have all the cameras there that are equipped to shoot these scenes, and also obviously it's quite dangerous. And so
and all of that rain was artificial, wasn't it?
yeah. And well, some of it was, I think, but yeah, they certainly flooded the home or this particular set, and so yeah, it's been really surreal just watching the success of Parasite, and just seeing how far it's gone. I mean, I've been hugely impressed with what Bong Joon-ho's done for many, many years. And so in some sense, it's not surprising that it's performed so well. But also, if anyone said to me, Jason, Parasite's going to win the Palme d'Or, it's going to win 4 Oscars, including Best Picture and Best Director, I would have said, yes, Bong Joon-ho's a genius, and he there's so many things that he can do, and he's incredibly talented, and the film will go far. But to win Oscars, I wouldn't have predicted that. So yeah, it's like I say, it's been an immense privilege to be where I am today.
Definitely. 그 박사학위를 썼을 당시에 그때 봉준호 감독에 대한 박사학위를 최초로 썼다는 얘기도 아까 잠깐 해주셨는데요. 그때 직접 봉 감독님 만나서 그 논문에다가 이제 사인도 받으셨잖아요.
Yeah.
What was that like? What was his reaction, and what was it like for you?
Well, basically, I've known Bong Joon-ho for several years. It all started in 2009. I wrote a dissertation about memories and murder, 살인의 추억, and Korean history while I was at SOAS, which is a university in London. And I emailed him. I said, "Oh, I'm this guy in London. I want to, if I can, it'd be great to interview you about the movie." And just sent the email. I didn't tell anyone about it. I didn't tell my wife. I just thought, just try and just see what happens. And I didn't get a response. So I was just like, okay, fair enough. That's cool. And I submitted the dissertation. And then suddenly in September of that year, I got a phone call at 9 o'clock in the morning. I could see it was from Korea, and I said hello. And he said, "Hello, this is Bong Joon-ho." And I said, "No, stop it. This is a prank." And the thing is, his voice is very similar to a friend of mine.
Oh, really?
So I thought it was him.
You really thought it was a prank? Yeah. I mean, who wouldn't?
So I was like, "Oh, no." And he's like, "No, this is Bong Joon-ho. You sent me an email." I was like, "What? Oh, wow!" Like I just.
How did you know about that email?
I didn't know what to say. And he said, "Well, I'm coming to London. Let's meet." And
that's an amazing story.
that's how our kind of friendship started.
Yeah.
And I met him, and then we had breakfast together. And so over the years, I've met him several times. I served on a jury with him as well at the OLO International Smartphone Film Festival. He was the head of that jury that year when I was on it. So I've had the opportunity to work with him as well, which is absolutely fantastic. And then as I was writing my dissertation, I wanted to meet him and talk about his film. So one morning we had coffee together, and I formally interviewed him. It was kind of an informal, semi-informal thing, and I recorded it. And we chatted for a long time. And then once I finished my dissertation, which was like 2 years later, I contacted him, and this is the year he'd been traveling, and so I gave him the dissertation, and he looked very impressed and touched, and that was really special moment for me. And he wrote a nice, lovely message and just thanking me. And yeah, it was a truly memorable moment. And I don't know if he's read it or what he thinks about it, but when I last saw him, he asked me if I was going to write any more.
Really?
And
Well, I heard
so
he's very meticulous. My best bet would be he has read every single page
that's
of
what
your
scares me.
dissertation.
It's been great to get to know him, and it's just amazing how
Wow.
far he's gone. Although, I mean, the success of the film kind of reminds me of what happened to me in 2004, because I first encountered Bong Joon-ho's films then.
Hmm.
I watched Memories of Murder in the cinema, and I was so blown away that I went back to see it 3 times.
Wow.
And because I had this like cinema card, like an unlimited card,
Yeah.
so you pay like a subscription, like
Right.
then it was like £10 a month, and you can just
Hmm.
go and watch as many films as you want. I used to watch
Why
like
not watch
a
Pong's films over and over again?
I was watching like 100 movies over the summer while I was off while I was on vacation from school,
Mm.
and yeah, so Memories of Murder was showing, and I just went back to see it 3 more times, absolutely blown away. So that kind of really sparked my interest in Korean cinema, and I started a website, and then I started working on film festivals.
Mm.
Initially, purely as a volunteer, I wasn't getting paid, but I just wanted to help them. And at that point, there wasn't much. I mean, there was some interest in Korean cinema, but
Mm.
certainly not the same level as you see today. And then in order to be able to see Korean films, I'd have to buy the DVDs on the internet, buy a region-free DVD player. It's very expensive, whereas
Yeah.
now you can watch a bunch of, quite a few titles online,
Mm.
on Netflix or Amazon or whatever. And so looking at the success of Parasite, for me, it reminds me of the days when I first saw Memories of Murder and the experience I had with the film. It seems that many people have had a similar experience with Parasite, but this just happened on a much, much bigger scale.
그렇군요. 지금은 제이슨 베셔베이스 교수님 또 이제 영화 평론가로 활발하게 활동을 하고 계시는데 예전에 이제 살인의 추억을 보고 나서부터 봉준호 감독에게 푹 빠져서 그때부터 이제 박사학위 논문도 쓰기 시작하셨고 아예 이제 한국에 정착도 지금 하셨죠. 봉 감독님과는 이제는 굉장히 좋은 친구 사이가 되셨는데 또 조금 후에는 우리 기생충 얘기를 안 할 수 없겠죠? 얘기 더 나눠보도록 하겠습니다. 자, 노래 듣고 와서 제이슨 베셔베이스 평론가 겸 또 이제 교수님과 얘기 나눠보도록 하겠습니다. Sarah McLachlan sings Adia. You're listening to Morning Special. This is our morning date with professor and movie critic Jason Bechervaise. He is an expert on all things Pong. And you wrote a thesis about it, and Pong himself approved of the thesis. I think that you're
Bong
entitled.
certified.
You are indeed. Okay, so you mentioned Memories of Murder countless times there. As 살인의 추억, that was the first movie that really got you gripped onto and hooked onto Pong and his movies, and Korean movies in general, I think.
Yeah.
And tons and tons of people, love to watch movies. How did that turn into a career? I think you mentioned a website and you volunteered. How did that become a career, though?
So like I said earlier, and like you just mentioned, I started a website which is no longer there, unfortunately. I just don't have the time to update it, so I had to take it down. But it was basically a website dedicated to Korean cinema in the UK. And that gave me a few opportunities to cover Korean films at festivals and things. It was through that I got other opportunities, like writing for this trade publication in the UK. But yeah, I also worked on film festivals, and I did that for a few years. The first time I worked on a film festival, I was a student. Actually, I was a student during many of the years I worked at these festivals. They needed help to kind of promote the festival, kind of in the mainstream media in the UK. So I managed to. I was like calling these several media outlets and emailing them, and I managed to convince Time Out UK to do a little feature on the Korean Film Festival in London, and as a result of that, it was like 1,000 people turned up at one screening or something.
Wow.
And then the festival director was so appreciative of my help that he told everyone at I think at the opening of the festival, the closing, I can't remember, which was really, really touching. And all I did was I just harassed these editors and said, please, can you do something? And fortunately, one did. And then I worked in another film festival that was run by the Korean Culture Center. And the Korean Culture Centers do a fantastic job in promoting Korean films, not only just at festivals, but they do screenings as well. And people are looking at why is it that a Korean film has become the first non-English language film to win Best Picture, and there are several reasons for this. And if you look at Bong Joon-ho's filmography, his films invariably come at very important times for the industry. Barking Dogs Never Bite was released in 2000, which is when directors and producers were given more autonomy, a very interesting period. And Memories of Murder is kind of, you see the kind of fruition of these changes, and it's no coincidence that year you have Memories of Murder, you have Park Chan-wook's Old Boy, Jang Jung-won's Save the Green Planet, Im Sang-soo's A Good Lawyer's Wife. All these films were released the same year. It's kind of seen by many as like the pinnacle of new Korean cinema. But one thing I think that really makes Korea stand out is the funding it's got and the support it's got through the Korean Film Council and these government bodies and the Ministry of Culture. It has come with its problems. There's been lots of articles about the blacklist that Bong Joon-ho was on, along with many other filmmakers. But I think overall, these government bodies have done a very, very good job in promoting Korean cinema. And that's one of the effects of that is that we have these culture centers in places like London, New York, Paris, and throughout the whole world that play a big part in promoting Korean cinema. So these films are getting support through getting funding through initiatives. Not just in terms of production, but also pre-production and post-production. And then once a film is released, these filmmakers get money so they can be flown over to these festivals. And then these culture centers are really active in promoting Korean films. And I happened to be in London when one of these culture centers was opening up and launching a film festival. So that's where I got my first kind of professional gig, if you like.
Right.
And then when I did that until my master's degree. Master's degrees in the UK are very intensive. They take, you just do them in 1 year, which is great. It's just 1 year of tuition fees. But the downside is it's a very intensive year. You don't really have any vacations, and you have to write your dissertation through the summer. And so I had to say sorry, but I have to focus on my studies. So I had to stop my kind of role at the Korean Culture Center that year. And then I was talking to my wife, so what now? I've done a BA and an MA in the UK, and I'm really passionate about Korean cinema. But what do I do with this? There aren't that many opportunities in London for the kind of skill set that I acquired. And so the logical thing to do was to come to Korea and pursue a PhD, and that was an idea that my wife had, and I was like, yes, that's great. And she found a scholarship program that again the government had funded, and so I embarked on that, and I studied Korean for a little while before doing the PhD. And it was a very difficult time for me in many ways because the whole program was in Korean, and it's a whole different culture of learning. That being said, I was very grateful to the professors I had. They're very understanding of my linguistic weaknesses. I tried very hard to study Korean, but obviously going from just learning it to doing a PhD is obviously a huge jump. And so I learned a lot during the PhD, not just in terms of learning about Korean films. It's great to be in the kind of the center of Korean cinema, and being at a university that's famous for Korean film, but also learning about the learning environment in Korea and how different it is to the UK. And so while I was doing my PhD, I was able to work as a film critic and talk about Korean films at these various kind of media organizations, including here at EBS. And it's just been great to be able to follow Korean cinema, go to the festivals, go to screenings, and meet directors, and kind of be a part of the industry. It's been a great privilege.
Wow. Well, you're a great in your own right when it comes to film critics and film professors. And so behind every great man is a great woman. So thanks to your wife, that idea.
Yeah, I'm entirely indebted to her.
Yeah.
Honestly, she was hugely influential in my career. She's very wise, and she knows Korea very well. And she was able to make the decisions at the right time and encourage me to do those. And yeah, and she's a journalist as well, so she understands the whole kind of industry. And if it wasn't for her wisdom, I don't think I'd be here talking about my Ph.D. and Bong Joon-ho. Yeah.
Well, the rest, of course, is history, and here you are indeed. Parasite, as we all know, as the world knows, won 4 Oscars. Ahead of that, about a year. Was it 6 months or so before that, the Palme d'Or in Cannes as well, and lots of many other prizes in between.
Yeah, 180, I think it's accumulated.
What was your take on Parasite? If you could, in a nutshell, give us.
Where do I start?
Jason Bechervaise's Critic.
I actually watched it again the other day on TV. You have to watch it in the cinema. So for those who haven't seen the cinema, please go and watch it on the big screen. It's absolutely fantastic. Bong Joon-ho's always had a great appetite for social critique, and you see that in Barking Dogs Never Bite. And as I was saying during the song break, when I'm talking to students about Bong Joon-ho, I tell them, if you want to learn more about the filmmaker, the best film to go to is Barking Dogs Never Bite. Everyone thinks about Mary's...
about that movie?
It's many reasons, but I think it's his use of pacing, it's his use of rhythm, it's his use of social satire, it's his most personal film. It has all the qualities that you see in Parasite. Now, he's perfected his craft, and his storytelling is kind of on a whole different level now. I think Mother, if you look at Mother, that marked a great shift, I think, in terms of the way he approached storytelling from a kind of his storytelling in Barking Dogs Never Bite, Memories of Murder, and The Host is somewhat linear, I would say, whereas in Mother, it's very kind of Hitchcockian, you know. It kind of there's this like Vertigo-esque kind of flashback kind of narrative structure, and then Snowpiercer is kind of an extension of his storytelling and becoming more ambitious in that regard. And I think in Parasite, you see another level. He's kind of moving up a level each time. And so that's what I mean. He's kind of perfecting his craft. But I think if you go back to Barking Dogs Never Bite, you see his real passion for social satire, his real character. You see all this being played out in Parasite, of course. But it's kind of different in Barking Dogs Never Bite. There's a kind of rawness to it that's in Parasite, but because it's so polished and, you know, the production values are incredible, I think that kind of gets... it's not something that really comes out at you that you see in the same way as Barking Dogs Never Bite. I mean, many people consider it as like his weakest film, which it probably is, but I go back to each time and I think this is a really, really good film.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
All I recall is Kim Sung-jae and Peduna running a lot. You know,
there's a lot of running. Yeah,
and
this
a lot
is
of running.
Yeah, when I was talking about rhythm and pacing, there's a lot of chasing in his films, and the idea of the steps and the social ladder. And basements, of course. You know, you have that whole sequence in Barking Dogs Never Bite where the main character,
I missed all of that.
He's trapped in the basement, and then you have this story about Boiler Kim,
right? The janitor, and the guy who finds the dog that the janitor put there, right?
Well, it's this story about this construction worker who's supposedly still, something tragic had happened to him, and he's supposedly still in the basement. And you know, it's in that sequence. You know, Byung-hee Bong plays the Gyeong-bi Adeshi in that film, of course. And he kind of what he's so good at is these terrific moments when he's talking about these little anecdotes and whether the story. I mean, Barking Dogs Never Bite is a social satire, but what you see in that sequence is it turning very very dark very very quickly, and there's this moment where it almost turns into a horror film, and I love that whole sequence. With the place of like the torchlight, and his voice, and it becomes very creepy very very quickly, and many filmmakers struggle to manage different tones in a film because it's a really difficult thing to master, mixing comedy and tragedy. If you're not careful, it just becomes jarring and it just doesn't really work. But Bong Joon-ho is not only able to do that in a movie, he's able to do that in a single scene. This is something he's incredibly talented at, and he's just a great storyteller. And just getting to know him over the years, and he just comes out with these stories, and it's the way he articulates them. It's really really funny. He's just an incredibly gifted storyteller. I think he's one of the best storytellers in the world.
Absolutely. 네, 그렇습니다. 플란데스 개부터 시작해서 설국열차 또 이제 지금의 기생충까지 봉 감독님의 어떤 천재적인 스토리텔링에 대한 얘기를 해주셨는데요. 저희는 잠시 음악을 듣고 다시 돌아오도록 하겠습니다. Let's listen to Rihanna now with Love on the Brain. Our morning date today is with film critic and academic Professor Jason Bechervaise. 자, 이제 우리 본격적으로 Parasite, 기생충 얘기를 나눠보도록 하겠습니다. After all the success it had here in Korea and of course in Cannes as well, of course in America, it won the 4 Oscars. And up until that point, it didn't just happen overnight. So many American moviegoers said they could relate to this movie. There were lots of videos up on social media by just, average people saying, oh my goodness, I can totally understand what's going on here. People who don't speak Korean, have never been to Korea. And so what is it about this movie, which on the surface looks like a very Korean movie, that resonates with American viewers especially, do you think?
Well, and I think it's not just American viewers. I mean, in the UK, the film is very much replicating the success seen in the United States, breaking box office records and even being shown in the small town where I'm from, which is extraordinary. No Korean film has ever been released there. I think the reason why it's resonated with overseas viewers, I mean, there are several factors I think involved. First of all, I think Bong Joon-ho's use of storytelling is incredibly innovative, unpredictable, and entertaining. I think there's a stigma attached to films dealing with social issues, and certainly subtitle movies, is that they are boring, not very exciting, dull,
and very
high art,
yeah.
And depressing. All these kind of adjectives are thrown around to describe these films. And I think Bong Joon-ho's films have never been boring. They've always been unpredictable, and his use of storytelling is wildly innovative. So I think that's one of the main reasons it's performed so well. I think the second reason is it's come at a very interesting time in politics. I mean, there's widening social inequality, not just here in Korea, but across the whole world. And I think if you look at Brexit, I think one of the big factors behind that is voters who feel they've just been left behind. And the recent election in the UK, where the Conservatives saw a massive, big majority, voters were just feeling like one of the reasons why they voted for them was because they felt they'd just been ignored by the Labour Party. And I think a lot of them are disgruntled, and a lot of them are angry at politics, and they're looking at their own livelihoods and how it's not getting better. In fact, it's getting worse. And I think the film touches on these issues in a very unique and, like I say, entertaining way. The film is it's shocking, you know, it's violent, but it's also very exciting.
Yeah.
And I think that's important. And Bong Joon-ho is always conscious of his viewers. He's always been like that. Not only that, but he wants to take viewers in directions they've never been to before. I think another reason is Bong Joon-ho hasn't come out of nowhere. He's been in the industry for 2 decades now, and especially Snowpiercer and Okja. They were, you know, English language projects, and they further kind of elevated him on the global stage. Snowpiercer, I mean, a lot of people, I've seen a lot of articles that say, oh, well, Snowpiercer didn't do that well. Actually, that was seen as a groundbreaking film in the way that it was released on a small number of films. It was seen as a game changer. It was released on a small number of screens, much like Parasite, and also released online or VOD or like via iTunes. And it was doing well on VOD platforms as well as in cinemas, and it was seen as a kind of, like, say, a game changer film in that regard. So yes, it wasn't this kind of gargantuan box office hit that Parasite is, but it was certainly a significant film. And then we have Okja, which caused all this chaos in Cannes and the subsequent media attention surrounding that. So Bong Joon-ho's name was out there, and his profile had been raised along with Korean cinema. I mean, and I've also mentioned how the Korean Film Council has been really active in promoting Korean cinema. And I think also it comes at a time where we see younger viewers going to the cinema in big numbers. And I think they're very keen to watch films with Korean subtitles. And also, people are able to watch a wide range of films on these streaming platforms. When I first got interested in Korean cinema, I mentioned earlier that I was reliant on DVDs or these like festival screenings. Whereas now people can watch a lot of Korean films and non-English language content on sites like Netflix and Amazon. It's still got a long way to go in terms of people watching subtitled content. You know, looking at the top 10 most watched content on Netflix, it's all English language fare in both America and the UK. So we still have gone a long way to go. I don't think Parasite's gonna change. It's a groundbreaking film, but I don't think we're going to see a huge shift in terms of the way people view subtitled movies. We're not going to suddenly see like millions and millions going out to watch, the next non-English language film. That being said, it's certainly a very, very significant film, and it will go down in history books.
네, 그렇습니다. 이 영화 기생충이 특별히 해외 관객들로부터 호응을 얻은 이유에 대해서 몇 가지 지금 분석을 해주셨습니다. 첫 번째는 재미 요소, 흥미, 전혀 예측 불가능한 그런 스토리라인을 늘 본 감독은 보인다, 이 얘기를 해주셨고요. 두 번째는 굉장히 시적절하다. 영화 속에도 그 대사가 나오죠. 송강호 씨가 참 시적절하구나, 이런 얘기를 하는데 그렇다는 얘기를 해주셨고요. 세 번째는 뭐 브렉시트와 같이 이제 정치인들로부터 소외당하고 있다고 느끼는 영국 국민들도 있지만 또 미국에서도 마찬가지고 전 세계적으로 내가 사회적으로 소외당했다라고 느끼는 사람들이 참 많은 시기다. 그다음 다음 이유는 본 감독 경력이 워낙 많지 않습니까? 갑자기 무슨 처음으로 영화를 냈는데 이게 뜬 그 케이스가 아니라 이미 해외에서도 많이들 봉준호 감독이라는 이름을 알고 있었고 그런 경륜이 또 큰 몫을 했다. 그리고 마지막으로는 영화의 어떤 접근 경로가 다양해졌기 때문에 한국 영화를 이제 쉽게 외국에서도 볼 수 있다라는 여러 가지 요소들 덕분에 이번에 기생충이 이렇게 흥행을 한 것으로 본다고 하셨습니다. Snowpiercer you mentioned briefly there, and that also deals with class as well. The people at the end and the people in the front,
Sure.
which is kind of similar to the people at the, at Park's house and Kim's house, and at the top and at the bottom.
Sure. I think what differentiates Parasite from Snowpiercer is that when we watch Parasite, we feel very much part of this class system.
I see.
Whereas Snowpiercer is very much a kind of a social, it's a critique of social class and also revolutions.
Yeah, it's more in your face, maybe.
Right. It's a very clever way of looking at class structures. And I love the end of the film, that whole sequence with Ed Harris at the end. And I think with Bong Joon-ho's films, he's kind of orchestrating chaos. You see that from Barking Dogs Never Bite, Never Bite right through his filmography, and that's because when I was writing my dissertation, I kind of finished with Snowpiercer, so it was a great way to kind of finish it because just this whole speech at the end and how how he's looking at how populations are controlled through chaos. It was just really, really clever. And I think, but what I think is different about Parasite is that he really brings us into that class system. We feel very much part of that. And the example I use is smell. And that's really striking. And you can't smell these characters when you're watching the film, but when you're going around and, I'm on the subway and I'm very conscious, like, obviously you've got these different fragrances and whatnot and what they connotate. And I was thinking of Parasite and how it makes us feel, how it kind of throws us within this class system and how we're part of it and how we can't escape it. And I think that's what's so remarkable. One of the reasons why it's so remarkable.
그렇죠. 누구나 다 내 얘기 같다라고 할 수 있는 영화 기생충에 대한 평도 주셨습니다. Well, that does it for our interview today. I would have loved to ask if you or Bong are big drinkers because he did say in his acceptance speech he was going to drink until the next morning, but we'll leave that for another day. Thank you, Jason.
Thank you for having me.
네, 오늘 제이슨 베셔베이스 교수님 영화평론가와 함께 모닝데이트 나눠봤습니다.